Deep breaths. Everybody, palms together in front of your heart. Take a bow to yourself. 3 deep breaths with your head relaxing, your shoulders relaxing, and your hands meeting, signifying you and I have come together. All the you-ness and yours-ness and me-ness and mine-ness having been transcended by the practice of yoga, the realization of oneself, one self. It's the very same self that is found in all beings, and all beings are found in that self. We begin this satsang with a Sanskrit prayer, a peace chant. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Param Sukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Dilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimala Machalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguna Rahitam Satgurum Tam Namami. Om Shri Ganeshaya Nama. Om Aim Saraswatye Nama. Om Shri Gurave Nama. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Om Tat Sat, Om Shri Gurave Nama. Welcome. Tonight's satsang commences on the Jyotirbindu Upanishad. The Upanishads, right off the bat, are another name for Vedanta. Upanishads and Vedanta are synonyms, and that is mean the source of all knowledge. The source of all knowledge, or the achievement after which there is nothing to achieve, and the knowledge after which there is nothing to know. So attaining that knowledge, or achieving that self-realization, is all achievements. Is anything you ever wanted to achieve is achieved when you attain the goal of life. So we think there's so much out there to do and many places to go. This sadhana and that practice and this style of yoga and that teaching. All the back and forth is necessary in the beginning stages, but in advanced stages is a form of distraction. So, Upanishad literally means to do what you're doing now. Sitting near at the feet, listening deeply to the truth. That implies to the teachings of yoga, to the self being expounded. And so the source of all of the knowledge of yoga, and yoga being the most ancient and complete system of personal development that exists, This knowledge is the source of all knowledge, is the basis of all knowing, the source of that which is known, and you find out who is the knower. Also, this three triad experience is happening every single moment. The triad is you're supposed to awaken from the triad. The triad is an illusion. So anytime you see the triad and the trident, Shiva holding that trident, it is to remind you, to poke you out of the sleeping of the world process. You just go on lifetime after lifetime asleep to who the real self, the real knower, what is knowledge and what is there to be known, and the whole experience of knowing, what is the truth of all that? That is awakening from the triad. And that is why you have the symbol of Om. Waking, dreaming, deep sleep. You see three major movements of the Om symbol. And then the world of illusion is the half moon. That's called Maya. And you must cross over Maya. You must transcend. You must cross the ocean of Maya to the dot, the Turiya, you, the real I am. So that's one very basic and very quick meditation on Om. You let your eyes move around in this way on Om, and it becomes your Pratak meditation, your steady gazing meditation. You bring the meaning into your mind, as well as the feeling of all three stages which your guru or spiritual preceptor initiates you into. How to do mystic worship on Om, how to do upasana, devotional meditation on Om. More on that, we can't go into that detail for now today, but Upanishads okay, so now we understand first what is Upanishad. It's another name for Vedanta. What does Veda mean? Veda is the knowledge, capital K, and Anta meaning end, culmination, or root. So it is that which you arrive to when you've come to the end of all knowledge. The root of all knowledge, not literally at the end of the Vedas. It doesn't occur, final chapters before the closing. It's not like this end. It's the essence, the nectar. And Jyotirbindu Upanishad literally means the essence of light. The essence of light. So this is what we'll be learning about today. What is the essence of light? What is the nature of light? Jyotir is light. So as I was saying, Veda and Anta, Vedanta. So Vedanta, Upanishads, these are all synonyms. And now we come to the Jyotirbindu. So these also 108 Upanishads are considered major Upanishads or important Upanishads. Okay, 108. Of the 108, 12, 11, or 10, depending on which school you're learning from. 12, 11, or 10, we'll say 10 to 12, are the most important. You must focus almost exclusively on these 10 to 12 Upanishads to understand what they are teaching. This Upanishad, the Jyotirbindu Upanishad, is one of those chili pepper Upanishads. Very short Upanishad, 13 mantras, so very direct, very to the point. So, with our Guru, Pujaatman, His Holiness Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda, with Gurudev's blessings, we will commence, and Param Guru's blessings, who has done this specific translation. Our Guru's Guru gives this translation of the Jyotirbindu Upanishad, His Holiness Swami Shivananda Saraswati. We commence. In Jyotirbindu Upanishad, Let us say a prayer. This prayer, the meaning of this mantra is that whatever I do with my body, my senses, my mind, my intellect, my powers of speech, may it be for God realization or self-realization. Om Kayena vacha manasindriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite swabhava karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai narayana yeti samarpayami. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Mantra 1 in the Jyotirbindu Upanishad, the essence of light. The self-shining Brahman, the absolute reality, Brahman. You can use any name you'd like. There's no direct English words that can adequately match up with Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is cosmic language. Every other language derived from that cosmic language, origin of Sanskrit, are sounds of the universe, and all other languages are derived from that. So therefore, there's nothing that can really exactly point to the Sanskrit, but the closest, Brahman, is what we call God, is what we call the absolute reality, existence, consciousness, bliss, however you want to describe that, which is nameless and formless. As you always come here, the self-shining Brahman is stainless. Stainless or spotless, the term is niranjana. Niranjana. So niranjana, the Brahman is niranjana, stainless, differenceless, timeless, spaceless, causeless. It is without destruction, without name, without form, without highness, or without lowness. It is chid akasha, all pervading. Chid akasha, the absolute space. Chid akasha. All pervading and above the reach of the mind and speech. Okay, so several words we're going to get into here in Sanskrit. Swayam Jyotis. Swayam Jyotis means the self-shining. So swa is self. Yum is the root letter of your heart. That's where all yummy and yumminess comes from. Yum. When you say yum, it actually comes from that root letter of the heart to denote deep satisfaction. So that yum is the root letter of the heart. So self, seated, the real you, we just use the heart as the locality. The real you is beyond location, beyond space. Jyotis. Jyotir or Jyotis is light. So it is the self-shining. Self-effulgent is another word that you'll hear in the scriptures. Self-effulgent means it doesn't need any light to see it. Oh, in the scriptures, they give this story and they say, okay, in the daytime, you use the sun to see around the world. Okay, what happens when the sun goes down and it's nighttime? Then by what light do you see the world is the question. By what light do you see? This is one of those prakriyas, those Vedantic prakriyas. A prakriya means a thought experiment, a process by which you are led to in a thinking process to the truth. So we start ignorant and then we get to knowledge and it happened like this. And you're like, hey, I can understand something so like it was foreign to me in the beginning. I was completely ignorant to, now I'm knowing. This is the only solution to ignorance, which is knowledge. Okay, so by what light do we see? Now it's nighttime. Okay, I see by the light of the moon and stars, exactly. Okay, then when it's cloudy, no moon and no stars, then by what light do you see? Oh, by fire. So you get fire, Agni. And okay, now when there's no fire, but what light do you see? Yeah, because you use the light of the fire to see with your eyes. Now, the fire goes out and it's pitch black. By what light do you see? It's the light of the mind. Because first of all, you'll sense the wind in the room. And you'll feel that wind on the hairs of your skin. And then you'll know if someone has passed by or not. Keep going and going deeper and deeper, this Upanishad and the Yoga scriptures. Now the senses are seeing by the light of the mind. And then you're seeing the light of the mind by the working of the mind is known by who? Who knows the working of the mind? The self. Say there's. Did you have two minds? Not. One is looking at the other mind. No. It's the real you that is self-effulgent, that is ever shining. So it doesn't need any other light to see. It is light itself. Jyotirbindu Upanishad. That is Swayam Jyotis. Niranjana, we covered, spotless, stainless. Many people think Brahman, the absolute reality, the real self, Atman or Brahman, these are interchangeable terminology. Many think the Atman can be stained, can be rendered impure. Because we know we call the person a soul. Oh, he was a good soul, and she was a good soul. But soul is a reference to the qualities of the mind in the person as well. And this is spotless. The real you is beyond the qualities, right? Beyond taint, beyond stain. Just as all types of clouds and weather patterns come in and through the sky. The sky is the very basis and support of all of those dark clouds and thick clouds and then light clouds and transparent fleecy clouds. And yet the sky has never been scratched. And you go out now, wherever you are, and look for the scratch. You won't find any permanent mark or stain on the sky in any way. That is an allegorical way of understanding description of Brahman being stainless, being spotless. Niranjana. One homogeneous essence, eka rasa. So the mantra was one without a second. One eka rasa. Eka is one, rasa is the essence or the flavor. Param karana. Param karana, param the supreme, karana the cause. So in every effect there must be a cause. And every cause produces an effect. Finding the origin of this universe is that supreme cause, that which is causeless. This is, oh, that's great to know about Brahman, but what about me? This is you! The real you. It's the body that starts and stops. The body is caused by karma. repeated embodiment, is caused by raga dvesha. Raga is attachment and dvesha is aversion. Okay, so that's what causes karmic buildup, is raga dvesha. What caused raga dvesha is a fictitious identity known as the ego. And this fictitious identity thinks that it can become fulfilled and happy and satisfied by liking something and disliking another thing. Such a regretful, tragic snare to fall into is to imagine that you will reach perfection and your birthright and realization and peace. Raise your hand if you want discord in your life. Raise your hand if you want unhappiness in your life. Let it flow. The discord must be removed. Remember, in electricity, you have a short-circuited energy. It's the same energy that was there before, which has become short-circuited. And when it's corrected, it's the same energy, but it's flowing. When we're short-circuiting, we blame our electronics. TV starts hitting the TV, you just punch the refrigerator, and you kick the dishwasher, nothing is working. And then all of a sudden, the electricity comes unobstructed without the short circuit, and life goes on harmoniously again. You don't have any of those made up problems. Okay. That was Param Karana. It is the source of everything. Swayambhu. Okay, we had swa again, self, yam, root letter of the heart, and bhu, self-existent. Bhu is bhu, means the elements. It points to all of existence. So bhu is pointing to all of existence, creation, manifested universe, particles, and swayam is the self-existent. It's not created. Brahman cannot be created. Remember, the body is created out of many parts and this and that. But the real you, the I, is not created. So why is it that? Because don't I get this I feeling when I come into embodiment? And before and after embodiment, I don't have an I? Is there any time that you don't exist? Here's why you'd understand about waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. That I, the real I am, is present in the waking state. It's present in the dreaming state, and it's present in the deep sleep state. But it is not the waker, it is not the dreamer, and it is not the deep sleeper. But those three states of consciousness rely upon, exist due to pure consciousness. Svayambhu. Self-existent. It doesn't change one state to the next state. Brahman doesn't owe its existence to anything. All things owe their existence to Brahman. Highness and lowness are relative terms because one can, be considered high in this society and then be canceled. And then one can rise up from what we consider low class into high class. And there's nothing high, nothing low. And then you can have a overly inflated projection of your own progress, thinking you're so high. And then you know what happens. You come crashing down underneath the facade, the fake props that the ego put up. Okay? And then you come starting as so humble, you come touch the feet of the guru, so low, and then you get lifted up to the top of the mountain summit, the peak of humanity, the peak of all human life. So Brahman transcends the pairs of opposites. High and low, pleasure and pain, cold and heat, honor and dishonor, likes and dislikes. Brahman, Chid Akash, means Jnana Swarupa, or mass of wisdom, the experience of your pure consciousness. What we're used to is experiencing everything else. We're used to it going after every other type of experience, except for that which will give us the experience we actually want. So as we say, you must look for what you're looking for in the right place. Never mind if you're looking for sense pleasures and all the kindergarten style looking. If you're advanced looking, searching, seeking, what do you find? All of your searching and all that is you. All of that external search was to find happiness where? Here. Where else would you want the happiness but in your experience of life, in your day-to-day reality? So that experience of the real I am is called Jnana Swarupa. It's basically the nature, Swarupa, the form or the nature of Swa, the self. You experience that, Jnana, direct knowledge. Brahman is Vibhu or Vyapaka, all-pervading. A finite mind cannot reach the infinite. Words are also finite. So Brahman is beyond the reach of speech and mind. Avang mano gochara. But seeing that Brahman is beyond the mind in speech, it can be grasped by a pure, subtle, and one-pointed mind. Pure, subtle, and one-pointed mind. Okay, mind has to be purified. If the mind is holding on to the gross impurities such as anger and lust and greed and pride and jealousy and delusion, infatuation, then those pounds need to be dropped. That weight, excess fattiness of the mind needs to be thinned out. It's mature, okay, very mature. This is that there's no ideal body type. Everyone who's listening, everyone who's here, there's nothing that thin is in no. It's allegorical. All right, so pure, subtle, one-pointed. Those impurities have been dropped. Pure. Subtle. We have subtle desires called vasanas. These subtle desires are coming from a subconscious mental space is called the subconscious mind, and from those subconscious mind sprouts the vasanas. These vasanas take us in a myriad of directions. We actually don't know what we want if we listen to all the vasanas. Vasanas will take us all the way over here and all the way over there and high and low and all these places. So, to control your desire, to control your vasana, means to, even from the external purification of the mind, letting go of the anger, the agitation, the lust, the greed, the all that, now you get into more subtle, into the subconscious mind. And the distractions, which usually drew your mind in all kinds of directions, now are turned from externalized mind to internalized mind. And you can actually start to untie those asanas, those knots. One-pointed. So what I've led you to is your Kriya Shakti is purified. Your action, the energy and the power that allows you to do action gets to be purified. Gets to be remove the short circuit that is causing the grip and the attachment through our actions, through our Kriya. Kriya is the action and the movement, the exertion. Next, the Vasana level. So this Mala level. Mala, gross impurities. Next, the Vasana level. That's distraction caused by the Vasanas. In your Icha Shakti. Your Icha Shakti literally means that energy or that power which causes you to desire and to feel. Sometimes we feel like this is wrong for me, and this is definitely right for me. That desiring and that feeling, heart-based, is Icha Shakti. That gets to be rendered subtle, because if our mind is constantly caught up with the turbulent waves caused by the impurities in Kriya Shakti, then it has no chance of stilling the more subtle waves, the ripples of vasanas, Icha Shakti. So now we have a pure mind and we have a subtle mind. What's the last? Is the one-pointedness. A finite mind cannot reach the infinite, but it can be grasped by a pure, subtle, and one-pointed mind. The one-pointedness of the mind has to target ignorance, and you bring the knowledge to where the ignorance is. So that's the one-pointedness of the mind. It's that after you've transcended and removed and stilled all of those distracting vasanas, now the mind is able to focus on one object of concentration or meditation. And the powers of your mind that you're utilizing now in ekagrata state, one-pointed state, allow you to pierce the veil of ignorance. It's required. That one-pointedness of mind. You understand the sharpness of the one-pointedness, the penetrative vision and thought of one who is steadfast in wisdom. Stita pragya. Okay. And it can be grasped by a mind that is equipped by the fourfold qualifications. We have covered extensively fourfold qualifications before as a review. First is viveka, discriminative knowledge. You must be able to discriminate what is real and what is unreal. Who am I and who am I not? What is the self, which is the object of all of my expressions of love, and what is the not self, that which obstructs every expression of love. Viveka. Vairagya is dispassion. Dispassion, now that you've realized what is the self and what to go after in life, now you have passion for going after it and dispassion for all the other nonsense, monkey business. Dispassion, and this dispassion is coming up later on in the Jyotirbindu Upanishad. What kind of dispassion we need, what kind of vairagya we need, what kind of vairagya will get us through, what kind of vairagya won't cut it. So that's dispassion for the unreal, passion for the real. Now you develop Daivi Sampat. You develop sixfold virtues. These divine virtues: serenity, control of the senses, withdrawal from selfishness, endurance or patience, faith, and even-mindedness, samadhan. So that was Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhan. These sixfold virtues qualify your heart and purify and make the heart subtle. Remember, we are allegorically in an ascension movement from the Kriya Shakti and the malas, impurities in our actions, removed by karma yoga. Now we move up to the heart level, Anahata Chakra, Ichcha Shakti. Ichcha Shakti is rendered harmonious by Raja Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Raja Yoga, the yoga of meditation, and Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of emotion to devotion, yoga of feeling. So now this Ichcha Shakti, calm, subtle, and this is enabled and helped by the Daivi Sampat, the sixfold virtues. Last is the Avidya Granthi, or Jnana Shakti. Avidya Granthi is the knot that is obstructing the flow of Jnana Shakti, the flow of thinking and the flow of knowing. This is our root ignorance, veil of ignorance, however you want to describe, which is removed or which is lifted by Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge into wisdom. And this coincides with the fourth qualification of mumukshutva. So we just went through the four qualifications of any spiritual aspirant or anyone who wishes to have success in yoga, and that's viveka, vairagya, daivi sampat, and mumukshutva, which means the burning aspiration for self-realization. Nothing is satisfying except for that. It's enlightenment or bust. Because you got to come back and do it all over again next time. So you want to reach that ultimate right now and don't put it off. As our guru says, DIN, do it now. What can be done later, do now. What can be done tomorrow, do today. And that is the fourfold qualifications. And by practice of hearing the Shrutis, hearing the scriptures, reflection upon them, and meditation on the great sentences contained therein of the Upanishads, i.e., Tattvamasi, that thou art, Tat, that, Tvam, am I, Asi, are. That thou art. Greatest utterances of all the millions of verses in the yoga scriptures. Literally, millions. Of all of them, there are great utterances, Mahavakyas. And two of those are being introduced in this Upanishad. Tattvamasi, that thou art, and Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. I am the absolute reality. I am spotless, Niranjana. I am Ekarasa, one without a second. Can keep going with this affirmation in your meditation. Removing neti neti, what you are not. I am not the body, I'm not the senses, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm not the ego. I am the Atman, or I am Brahman. And this leads us into mantra 2, Jyotirbindu Upanishad. One self, Brahman, is hidden in all things. He pervades, or it pervades, all things. It is the inner life of things. It lives in all things. It is the soul of all. There is nothing like Brahman. And okay, so just Brahman is the inner self of all. We may project this ego identity to be an inner self, but it is exterior to the real you. It is a facade. It changes. You can put on a new ego identity. So it's still, and who sees it? And what is seeing the ego's identity in all of its changing props? The light of all lights, the Jyotir, the self. And so, just as fire is hidden in fuel, so is Brahman hidden in all things. Fire hidden in the fuel. The fetus hidden in the womb. The electricity hidden in the wires. The scent hidden in the buds of a flower. Even so is Brahman, hidden in all things. There is nothing like Brahman. All-pervading, Vyapaka, Vibhu. The inner life of all things. Just as sound is hidden in the record. Just as butter is hidden in milk. And just as oil is hidden in the seed. So also is the self hidden in the heart of all beings. So nice. So nice. So such a blessing, such a joy. Okay, so now we're getting introduced to the 3 states of consciousness again. Jagrat, waking state, Swapna, dreaming state, and Sushupti, deep sleep state. And this is talking about the jiva, where the jiva dwells in each of these 3 states. Because the teaching is that Brahman is the inner essence or all-pervading reality of all. So the Upanishad is going deep and further into, well, who do you think that you are in all of these 3 states? And then tell me, the Upanishad says, what is remaining? What is always there, unchanging, ever present? And so in this Jagrat state, the jiva, which the jiva is in yoga terminology the soul, and this soul is the same as the absolute self, Brahman or Atman, that we've been focusing our minds and attention on in this Upanishad, but that jiva insists that it is the body-mind complex. That's why it's called a jiva and not the Atman or Brahman, the absolute self. It's because the jiva insists on being the body or insists to identify with the adjuncts of the mind, or it insists to be this temporary ego personality. That's why we call the soul the jiva instead of the atman or the brahman, the self. So, it is that mind. It's fancy we call soul, and we actually say body, mind, soul. When like yoga is gonna, body, mind, soul. Body, mind, spirit. In profound understanding, the soul is actually a mass of ignorance. It's the truth. The soul. Because what did I just say? Remember, this is so clear, it must be very clear. The jiva is the same as the atman, the same as the absolute self. But one has limitations and one does not. One is the jiva identifying with these limitations, time, space, causation, the pairs of opposites, remember low and high and all this, ignorance. Jiva identifying with ignorance is called jiva. But jiva, waking up, after attending satsanga and practice of integral yoga, realizes it's the atman. That atman which that jiva always was. In and through all of the suffering, in and through all of the elation, in and through all of the depression, was the atman. But throughout all that, it thought it was the jiva, right? Now in enlightenment, you realize that jiva is the atman. Aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman, tattvamasi, that thou art. Yeah, relaxed. And that's why when we come to the teacher, we come to the feet of the guru. What does he say first, or she says first? Is relax, my dear. Take water. Sit down, relax, calm. Okay, so as we started to say that jiva, where does it go in the three states? The jiva lives in the eyes in the waking state. Makes sense. Most of your waking state is dominated by which sense? The eyes, the seeing sense. So it is that jiva that operates and lives in the eyes, in the jagrat state, the waking state. That same jiva lives in the throat, Vishuddha chakra, in the dreaming state, because Udana prana is responsible for dreams, the activation or the prana that is called Udana, located at Vishuddha chakra. It's responsible for the projection of dreams. What's being projected? Your own consciousness. How is it being projected? Through the mind. By what energy? By the Udana prana. So, the jiva living in the throat during the time of dreaming, swapna. And during the time of deep sleep, the jiva lives in the heart. Anahata chakra. Deep sleep. Sanskrit, shushupti. Shushupti, deep sleep. The jiva, the mind soul, which is like a mass of ignorance, mass of false impressions through millions and millions of lifetimes. That's what we call a soul, and that's what reincarnates because of those impressions from the past. In enlightenment, where does the jiva? Where's crown of the head? What does that mean, crown of the head? It means that all dualities become non-duality. From dormant kundalini, coiled serpent energy, Shakti, feminine, uniting with the masculine crown of the head, in the abode, in the union, in the yoga. Remember, the scriptures give allegorical descriptions. So, well, Sri Sudarshan said that it has to be in my crown of the head, but I felt my heart opened. I did it wrong. And this is constantly, remember when you get in advanced, and when you get into the advanced stages of sadhana, spiritual discipline, it's very imaginative. It's quite imaginative. You are encouraged to utilize your imagination when you're meditating upon the absolute reality. In the beginning, you're initiated into how to meditate upon the absolute reality with a form and with qualities. But in advanced stages, you're initiated into and taught how to meditate on that absolute reality without form and with qualities. And then in the advanced stages, of course, you know that it's without form and without qualities, but the mind has to be so pure, subtle, and one-pointed in order to successfully perform Nirguna Nirarka meditation. And all-pervading nature of Brahman is one without a second, ekam eva advityam Brahma. You cannot find a second thing to compare Brahman to. that is that. There is nothing second. Brahman is pure consciousness, the light of pure consciousness. By how else would you? What would you see that light? There is nothing else to see Brahman by, because it is by the light of Brahman, by the light of you, that you are seeing everything, including your own intellect, the operations of your own intellect, being able to understand or not understand. Okay, mantra 3. There are 7 crores of great mantras. 7 million great mantras. Of all the mantras, the mantra Aham Brahmasmi is the best. He or she who repeats and meditates on this mantra at once obtains salvation. There is not even a particle of doubt about it. Woohoo! Yes. Okay, so one can cross the ocean of Maya, remember the half moon of the Om, and this whole entire world process that we keep coming back again and again, cycle of birth and death, over and over. Birth, growth, decay, death, birth, growth, decay, death. This is ended by this mantra. Because, remember, that necessitation of reincarnation is caused by thinking that we are the body-mind-ego complex. So the mantra that you've been repeating over and over for millions of lives has not been I am Brahman. It has been I am the body, I am the pranas, I am the mind, I am the intellect, I am enjoyment from senses, enjoyment from objects, enjoyment from experiences. Now when you bring I am Brahman vritti into your mind, the Brahmakara vritti, the thought of Brahman, all of those are negated. All of those are removed. So you bring Brahmakara vritti, you bring thought of Brahman, and all of that other leaves. It's not it stays, and then they have to mix around. No. Vanishes, disappears. Ignorance. What is this like? That is like the darkest cave you can ever imagine. Inner chambers of the cave, darker than dark, pitch black. And you bring a little match, you light the match, and it illumines the whole cave. Why? Because light is the reality. Darkness, absence of light. So darkness cannot be found when you bring the light. Problems are always in the darkness. Now what happens to the problems when you bring light to the ignorance? There's no more ignorance. Knowledge is the only solution to ignorance. So, Bring this mantra, Aham Brahmasmi, into your daily japa, daily chanting practice, repetition of mantra. Practice always this mantra of your Atman. The scripture is telling you that this is the mantra of your Atman, the absolute self's mantra. That's good language. Study the Mahavakyas or great sentences. When you study these great sentences, these utterances, Mahavakyas, with qualified teacher, it steadies the Brahmakara vritti. Because you want that thought wave of Brahman pervading and operating in your mind at all times, not the ones born of ignorance. So by bringing your mind to the scriptures, the Shrutis, Satsanga, and to the Mahavakyas specifically, it steadies that Brahmakara vritti. Kara is form, vritti is the thought wave, Brahma is the absolute reality. It's the thought wave of Brahman. The mantra Aham Brahmasmi destroys all the sins of body and birth, the noose of Yama, or the god of death, all pains of duality, the thought of difference, the pain of thought, the disease of the buddhi, intellect. The buddhi, the intellect capacity or the reasoning capacity, has been faulty, has been diseased. So we cure that by right thinking. This is one thing that always brings comedy, is how many errors we make on a moment-to-moment basis. If we could make a list, we would run out of paper. And so, there's not a server in this world that can store all that data. How many errors we've made, and we continue making subtly, I'm telling you, subtlest of the subtlest errors. But where are they being made? Yeah, we already talked about the errors of the malas and the gross impurities and the distractions. Now we're talking about errors in our thinking, not so easily removed. Call the cleaners, get it clean. No, how do you clean the mind? How do you give the mind the bath? It's easy to wash the body. We do it every day, our hair and our skin and our thing. What about the mind? So, it's cleaned by Aham Brahmasmi. The buddhi, the intellect, the bondage of chitta, the mind stuff, the bondage to chitta, the bondage to the mind, always glorifying the mind, always being a victim to the samskaras, the impressions of the unconscious mind and the vasanas that are sprouting from those unconscious desires. That's called bondage to the chitta, that is removed and destroyed by the mantra Aham Brahmasmi. All diseases, all griefs, all passions, instantaneously. Also the anger, sankalpas. Sankalpas are the I'll do this thought. Sankalpa, I'll do this. I will do this. Vikalpa, I won't do this. Sankalpa, Vikalpa, Sankalpa, Vikalpa. We've been going back and forth like this. All this is removed by the Brahmakara vritti, the Aham Brahmasmi mantra. I am Brahman. Crores of sins, millions, crores, millions. All actions of the ajnana, ignorance. So it bestows ineffable bliss, killing the demon of the non-Atman. The thunderbolt of I am Brahman clears all ills of the non-Atman. The wheel of I am Brahman destroys all demons of the non-Atman. The mantra I am Brahman relieves all persons and gives spiritual wisdom and bliss. Okay, now we'll go a little bit quicker through these last few mantras. Mantra 4. Vairagya is of three kinds. Dull, intense. Dull is manda. Intense is tivra. And very intense, tivratara. Very intense is called tivratara. Dull vairagya cannot help a man in the spiritual path. Wah, wah, wah. So, all right. This is vairagya, to remind you, means dispassion, means dispassionate toward that which causes further suffering. And the opposite of that is raga, is attachment to that which causes suffering. So the likes, you will never hear rarely or never hear the spiritual preceptor or the guru say, I like this and I don't like this. First of all, there's no I or no me. That's been rendered under, that's been negated, transformed, sublimated. The ego, I-ness and me-ness and mine-ness and yours-ness and you-ness. And then likes and dislikes, that was gone a long time ago, before the ego. So vairagya is the healthy detachment, because what unhealthy detachment is, I wanna go. This world is full of evil. It's full of corruption. I'm going to the caves. Peace. I'm going to the Himalayas. I'm going to the forest. I'm going to renounce all this monkey business. That's immature. That's not healthy detachment. Because as soon as you get to the cave in the forest, what do you miss? The dark chocolate, the hot showers. So, the prasad, the good prasad at the ashram, right? So this is childlike. That's childish. That's childish. We don't do childish. We do childlike, which is innocent, pure child. Okay, but not ignorant like the child. Okay, so vairagya is born from viveka, as we talked about the fourfold qualifications. Viveka is the discriminative knowledge, the ability to see self clearly and not self clearly. You must have that number one, vision, the power to move and do right and act and live with clear sight. Vision. Mm-hmm. Okay. Helpful for developing vairagya is the company of sadhus and sannyasis, the company of spiritually enlightened personalities, sadhus, sadhakas, spiritual aspirants, and sannyasis, those who are teaching the art of real detachment, those who are leading qualified sadhus and sadhakas to the gates of liberation as a true sannyasi. Hanging out with them will help you in vairagya. It's what the Upanishad says. The company helps one in developing vairagya. The temporary vairagya, the temporary dissatisfaction, or the dissatisfaction, not the right word, dispassion for the unreal that we develop in a funeral. When we go to the funeral, we're like, oh man, like all those things, all those truths and those mantras and those aphorisms and those scriptures that I read and I studied at the ashram and with my teacher, they're right. This world is full of suffering, and if I identify with the body, here I go, back to dust. Again and again and again. Therefore you get vairagya. Scripture says, Upanishad says, Jyotirbindu says, not gonna qualify you, not gonna get you there. That is little temporary vairagya. Just moment to moment. You get it at the funeral, then when you come back to the restaurant, enjoy your cinema show. So that's not gonna cut it. And the vairagya we get when we are like confined in lockdown, literally what the Upanishad says. In confinement, we get like intense, like I'm not gonna let anybody trap me, confine me, lock me down, that's not even strong enough. That's called dull. Those are the dull or the temporary types of vairagya. So we need intense, tivra, and tivraratra. Tivratara. We need tivra and tivratara, very intense. Aspirants will complain. We have been meditating for the last 12 years. What kind of progress have we made? Mm-hmm. So, when you were confined and you were taken, all the objects and the experiences were taken away, what happens when you're not confined? You jump on the objects and experiences right away. Where did the vairagya go? It was dull. It was not the vairagya that we need. So now when you ask this, when we've been meditating for the last 12 years, and where's the spiritual progress? It's because the vairagya was not intense enough. It's the truth that you can meditate for a long time, 20, 50 years, yoga practice and this and that, but never actually realize who you are, what is your purpose, and what is your goal. We left out vairagya. We left out viveka. We left out daivi sampat. We left out mumukshutva. You leave out one or any of the four qualifications, you're not qualified. We do not reach the goal. So, the development of intense vairagya is because, in meditation as well, when we are a beginning meditator, we have objects come into our minds, right? We think of objects and we think of experiences when we're trying to meditate. So that is a lack of intense vairagya. Intense vairagya only can help the aspirant in attaining self-realization. And this vairagya will come in waves. Yeah? The wavy type, funeral type, lockdown type, go back to the sensual pleasures, go back to the objects. You develop more intense vairagya under the guidance of a guru, under the guidance of a qualified spiritual preceptor. And then with that guidance and with that purification and study of scripture, shruti, reflection, meditation, then one develops intense vairagya. Tivratara. Mantra 5, if the mind is filled with sattva, purity, the other two gunas, rajas and tamas, activity and inertia, will perish by themselves. The mind will become very subtle and steady like a lamp in a windless place. Mantra 6, mind is the only cause that brings about man's bondage or liberation. Remember, bondage and liberation are in the mind alone. They're not absolute realities. They're not inherent realities, bondage and liberation. It's in the mind. Mind is alone the cause of bondage and liberation. Mind that is tainted with rajas, activity, and tamas, inertia, leads to bondage, while a mind that is filled with sattva or purity is conducive to liberation. Mantra 7. Just as you take out the butter from the buttermilk by the process of churning, even so you will have to take out the Atman from the panchakoshas by the churning of constant meditation. The panchakoshas we started the satsang with. Annamaya is what you see. The sheath, the layer that you see is the Annamaya kosha. That's all you see. Say, where am I? I'm here. No, all you see is the Annamaya kosha. 5 sheaths. Food sheath, the physical sheath. Pranic sheath, Pranamaya kosha. Mind sheath, Manomaya kosha. Intellect sheath, Vijnanamaya kosha. And the sheath that we are getting enjoyment from Experiences and objects, Anandamaya Kosha, that sheath. By the process of churning, constant meditation, one separates the Atman from those 5 sheaths. By the churning of meditation. And if all desires of the heart, those vasanas, distractions, are destroyed, then one alone attains immortality, supreme peace, and the highest knowledge of Brahman. I am Brahman, mantra 9. I am Brahman, I am the immortal self in all, I am all-pervading pure consciousness. Do thou this by the fire of wisdom. Burn the dense forest of ignorance and be free of grief and be happy from this very second. Mantra 9, and with this we'll conclude. I am Brahman. I am the immortal self in all. I am all-pervading pure consciousness. Do thou, by this fire of wisdom, burn the dense forest of ignorance and be free from grief and be happy from this very second. And with the blessings of our Guru and our Guru's Guru, His Holiness Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda and His Holiness Sri Swami Shivananda, we conclude tonight's satsang. Om Trambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiv Bandhanan Mrityurmukshiyamam Mritat. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve Badarani Pashantu Ma Kaschittu Kabag Bhavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurmam Mritam Gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Shri Gurave Namah. Namaste. Namaste. Om 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 Om.